What's up, guys? It's Sandal from Substance Over Style, and welcome to a new video. I'm thinking about actually rebranding the title of the channel, because like when I came up with the Substance Over Style name, it was like 10 years ago when I started this channel, and I was kind of doing a lot of making a lot of fashion content and sustainable fashion and DIY and things like that. And yeah, I just feel like doesn't really fit anymore. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, where's the lighter? Okay, no, I've only got matches today. Right, okay, so we're gonna light this Palo Santo. How is everyone doing? It's so hot. If you can hear that noise, that is the fan. I've got an electric fan going off next to me because I'm literally sweltering. This room is like so hot. It's literally like, this room is like the coldest room in winter and the hottest in summer. And you know, it's, you know, I love it, it's beautiful, but you know, the temperature fluctuations are a little bit hard to deal with. So we got the fan. Oh shit, the fan is gonna blow it's not gonna blow my match out. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Yes. Okay, we got it. Okay, today I want to talk about the Divine Feminine. Okay, we're going to go back to basics with some of these concepts, because obviously there's a lot of people talking about Divine Feminine and what it is. But I think that there is a fundamental understanding of the principles of both Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine that a lot of people seem to miss. And without this proper understanding, the foundation upon which the teachings are based, and there's a lot of people even teaching this stuff that don't seem to understand this, the foundations are shaky. Okay, so Divine Feminine basically refers to the feminine current of God. Okay, and it is the feminine aspect of God that is in union with the masculine. Okay, it is masculine and feminine together in sacred union. Both are unified. That's it. That's the fundamental principle. Okay, so yeah, I can end the video there. But I'm not. I'm going to elaborate, okay? Because a lot of people talk about Divine Feminine as and use it in place of, they use it interchangeably with feminine energy, and they're not necessarily the same thing, okay? If you got, okay, so let's talk about the streams that emerge from the Godhead, and then they, as you know, loads of different traditions will talk about this, from the Vedic text to the Gnostic text to various indigenous cultures, you know, particularly of the Americas, will talk about how the further away you get, the Hermetic principles also talk about this, the further away you get from the Godhead, where masculine and feminine are unified throughout eternity as one everlasting, ancient, eternal force that's beyond gender, as you kind of descend into these denser realms, things become more and more polarized. Okay, this is the principle of polarity, or the principle of duality. Masculine and feminine are one example of something that is dual in nature. Okay, so it's with the principle of polarity, things are the same in nature but different in degree. Like hot and cold are both measures of temperature, but you know, where's the sweet spot where you're going to flip from hot to cold is subjective, right? Okay, so with masculine and feminine, they are measures of gender. Okay, and at the extreme end you have masculine, and at the other pole you have feminine. Now, divine masculine and divine feminine, I could do another video called what is the divine masculine, and it would be pretty much the same video. Okay, it's just slightly different angle that I'm taking on it. Divine feminine and divine masculine are where those two meet in the middle, and the exact point at which they meet and unify is not clearly defined. Just like everything in this universe, there is no separation. Okay, there is no there's no clear delineation at which you can say, okay, this is all feminine energy and this is all masculine energy, and then where they start to unify, where's that point where they start to unify? It's not, there's no clear, you know, like I said, there's no clear delineation. It's not, you know, it's a false binary. It kind of just they merge into each other. So there's a singular point at which one flips to the other, or where they are the same, where they are unified, where they are androgyne. And the divine androgyne is actually probably the one that is closest to God. And I'm not talking about, you know, being both masculine and feminine, because that's, you know, if you're extremely both masculine and feminine, then you're internally polarized, which is why the Baphomet, which represents Satan or Moloch, is depicted as both a man and a woman. He's masculine, but he has like the breasts of a woman, to show that both to extreme polarity within oneself is an example of satanic inversion. So like, for example, this is what I teach in my course, Reclaim Your Crown. I teach you how to heal those extreme polarities within yourself, where you flip from one to the other. So, you know, if on one hand you're expressing yourself as extremely masculine, and then, you know, in a way that's like unhealthy, where, you know, you've got like a masculine armor, very, very tough boundaries, not trusting at all, controlling, domineering, narcissistic, you know, all of those qualities that happen when there is a lack of feminine integration within the masculine consciousness. And then on another hand, you flip to being extremely feminine with no boundaries, extremely chaotic, extremely emotional, without, you know, a proper healthy awareness and consciousness of the emotions, and manipulative. That's, you know, like a wounded feminine energy, or like a codependent energy, people pleasing, bending over backwards, you know, a lack of healthy, you know, self-preservation, and completely others oriented, leaking out all your energy, giving away all your sacredness and all of your energy to others, then you're internally polarized. So divine feminine or divine masculine is about bringing those polarities back into the 0 point, into the central point. So, you know, a lot of people talk about cultivating your feminine energy, and they talk about, you know, the principles of feminine energy, which are creativity, sensuality, being connected to your emotions, being connected to your body. But they don't talk about having a healthy masculine integration, which is essential for embodying divine feminine. Okay, it's not just embodying feminine energy without the proper structure and architecture of the divine masculine. Now, what is the divine masculine? That's your awareness. Okay, awareness, consciousness, presence, holding space. These are all masculine principles, divine masculine principles. Look at the ancient texts, look at the tantric texts, look at the Hermetic philosophy, okay? Read the Kybalion, all of this will talk about this, okay? These are esoteric truths that are written into the natural laws of our universe. You know, the watcher, the gazer, this is where the male gaze comes from. It's the awareness, it's the consciousness, it's the one that beholds, okay? Feminine is creation, it's that which is manifested. It is life force, it is essence, it is playfulness, it is chaos, it is, you know, all the things. While masculine is like the singular point, it's extremely like focused, one directional, imagine like a lingam, right? So it's focused, one directional, forward moving, thrusting, linear, whereas feminine is more like spirals and movement and chaotic and creativity and things like that. Okay, now there's one principle that doesn't get talked about enough in teachings on feminine energy. I have never seen anybody talk about this apart from the OG Mark Passio, who I think is one of the best teachers on this subject, because of the way that he approaches learning and the way that he approaches studying, and he teaches people how to approach studying and learning to you know, he applies the trivium method of understanding the truth. Okay, the primary divine feminine principle, also known as the lost Hermetic principle or the 8th Hermetic principle, which is not talked about in the Kybalion because, like he says, it's the lost principle, which is why nobody else really talks about it, because most people haven't gone deep enough to understand these most occulted principles, is the principle of care. Okay, care, compassion, like what you give a shit about. Okay, now it's understood that feminine energy is very caring and compassionate and nurturing by its very nature. If you think about what is a mother, okay, she's caring, she's compassionate. It's known as the generative principle. Why is it known as the generative principle? Because it's that which it generates life. If you think about, you plant a seed into a womb, through the care and the nurturing and the love that a woman will cultivate into growing this seed into a baby, human beings are brought forth into the world. Okay, and similarly with all aspects of creation, it's what we care about and what we put our focus, again, care plus focus, divine feminine plus divine masculine, and nurture with our attention and our energy and our awareness and our consciousness, again, masculine principles, which creates life and takes shape and generates in the world. And you know, that's what we're going to see more of, whatever we put our care and our focused attention on. So now that we've defined what divine feminine is, let's look at some examples and how we can cultivate divine feminine energy within ourselves, okay, and within our lives, within our own selves, within our relationships, and by extension within the world. Okay, so as you start to heal your relationship to your feminine energy and understand what the principles of masculine consciousness and feminine consciousness are, you start to connect to your emotions. You start to hold space for your emotions, okay? So this is the way that you're able to develop divine femininity rather than just feminine energy, because as you heal one, you are always going to heal the other, because the universe is always seeking balance, okay? You can't work on one without the other. If you're working on one too much, then the other is going to become suppressed into the shadows of your consciousness, and it's going to take the opposite polarity. Okay, so if you become too polarized towards the feminine, then your masculine consciousness, which will be suppressed and shadowy, will come out sometimes. Okay, so let's say, for example, you're being too much focusing on your emotions, and too led by your emotions, and you're not, you know, connecting enough to your masculine consciousness, which is the principle of logic, and you know, seeking knowledge from outside. You know, you're just becoming too intuitive and trusting too much. That, you know, feminine consciousness is about trusting the wisdom of your body, and this is super important if you're in relationship with the man, that you start trusting, you know, those intuitive feelings that you get from your body, and learn to hold space for those with your own divine masculine consciousness. But you also need to employ logic to that, because your body and your emotions aren't the objective truth, okay? They're what's true for you, but they're not necessarily, like, let's say, for example, a man does something that makes you feel triggered, okay? You can hold space for yourself, and instead of gaslighting yourself out of that, okay, I feel really triggered when he tells me what to do, and this reminds me of, you know, when my teachers would tell me what to do and when they would shame me and embarrass me, so I'm feeling really triggered and I don't feel comfortable with this. Okay, so you express that, you know, listen, I don't feel good. It makes me feel uncomfortable when you know, dictate to me, and that, you know, I would prefer if you, or however you want to express it. There are certain ways to express it that are more conducive to, you know, having a healthy relationship, and I don't want to discuss those in this video right now, because I feel like that's like a whole other topic, but understanding that just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean that that was the objective truth of the situation, okay? If you feel like he's trying to control you and that's what your body's telling you, that doesn't mean that that's the objective truth that he was trying to control you. It could just be your perception based on things that you've been through and your assumption about his intention, okay? So you can communicate and say, when you communicate these things, okay, you have to communicate it from a way where you just say how you feel. You don't say what his intention is, okay? You just say, I feel really uncomfortable when you speak to me like that. You can even explain the reason for the trigger, because it reminds me of when my teacher spoke to me like that, and it puts me in a trigger response, and it makes me feel fearful, or, you know, it makes me feel unsafe, okay? And then you basically give him the invitation to solve your problem and to communicate with you in a different way. You don't come at him in a way that says, I feel, okay, so I am going to talk about community. You don't say, I feel uncomfortable because you're trying to control me. My teacher tried to control me and I'm getting triggered, and you're doing the same thing, and that's how I know that you're trying to control me. Okay, these are extreme examples, but you know, one is like inviting him to kind of navigate your triggers in a way that where he feels free to make the sovereign choice to do that. He's not feeling, because the other one is manipulative and it's controlling. It's wounded feminine consciousness. If you're trying to say that the truth of your body, that your perception or your intuition is a completely 100% correct, because it just isn't always, okay? If you've got trauma in your body, a lot of the time you are going to have negative assumptions about people. This is why I tell all you guys to really consider joining that course, because we actually remove those imprints from the body. So you actually you'll start to make less and less negative assumptions about people, because you'll actually start to cultivate, you know, your masculine consciousness will come online. You'll start to feel that electric Christ masculine kind of surging through your body, and then you'll also feel the Shakti moving through your body as well, okay? We actually start to merge both masculine and feminine energies, planetary energies and universal energies within the temple of the body, because everything is a hologram, right? As within, so without. So, you know, if you've got distortions in your field where you're internally polarized, then that's going to be reflected externally, where you're going to get a relationship that's also polarized in an unhealthy way if you're internally polarized in an unhealthy way, okay? So coming back into balance, you know, there's a lot of teachers out there who will teach you how to be more feminine and tell you that you as a woman are being too masculine. Yes, there are a lot of women who have got a masculinized shell where their masculine has taken an unhealthy expression because they've suppressed their feminine consciousness, okay? Because their masculine is not holding space for their feminine. It's not, you know, listening. You're not listening to your own emotions. You're not trusting. You know, you've got to hold space for your emotions in a compassionate way and talk to your inner child and nurture your inner child. But you've also got to understand that that doesn't necessarily mean that the assumption that you're making about the person is necessarily true. That doesn't mean that it's not true, okay? It might be true, okay? Let's say, for example, somebody's being sketchy. Like, if you feel like the guy's being sketchy, he might be being sketchy. I'm not saying that he's not being sketchy, but he might also not be being sketchy, and you might just be assuming that he is. And if you keep on having that assumption, especially if you're going out there accusing him of it, then he's probably going to get sketchier and sketchier, and you're going to manifest that timeline. So it's about neutralizing those polarities and bringing them back in together, okay? Your divine feminine consciousness can only come online when you actually integrate your masculine energy. And for me, like, when I spent a year or two like diving really, really deep into the feminine mysteries and doing like intense shadow work and feminine embodiment practices. Ritual is an amazing way of, you know, connecting to your feminine energy, because things like, you know, lighting incense, okay? Why does ritual help you connect to your feminine energy? Firstly, because it creates sacred space. Sacred space, okay? Yoni means sacred space, okay? So creating sacred space it kind of it activates your senses. That's all feminine consciousness, okay? Connecting to my sensuality, connecting to my body, okay? I started practicing natural dance. Natural dance will connect you to your emotions. It will connect you to the truth of how you're feeling. It will help you feel your feelings. And as you feel your feelings and hold space for your feelings, then your feelings can actually move through your body. You actually start to purify trauma from the body, and you start to connect more with the truth of who you are. And if emotions have like, they're kind of like a parfait, right? They've got layers to them. So your initial emotion might be that you feel angry, okay? Underneath that you might feel betrayed. Underneath that it might be because you are scared of rejection or abandonment. And at the deepest level, it's usually always either from love or a lack of love, okay, or fear, which is a lack of love. So as I went through this process of diving really deep into the deep feminine, I started to heal my relationship to the masculine, because you can't heal one with the other. As I started to understand what feminine consciousness is, and about how she is the receiver, she is the portal to the divine, she is the one that initiates him into, you know, the mysteries, okay, gnosis, inner gnosis, that's all feminine consciousness, okay. Then I started to heal my relationship to the masculine. I was just like, oh, that's why they're so magnetized to us. That's why they pursue us so hard. That's why they're angry at us. That's why they, you know, I started to understand our role in healing and nurturing and balancing them, in supporting them in their mission. You know, when you go on this journey, there are so many things that will come through that can't necessarily be, again, explained with the spoken word, okay. It's an embodied experience. The experience of diving into the feminine and improving your relationship to your feminine is very much an embodied experience, and it's an individual experience for a lot of people, because depending on your trauma, as you start to connect to your own personal trauma, and you know what your body, the residual memories of your body, you'll actually start to connect to the consciousness of Mother Earth, because we're fractals of her, right? And we're connected to her. We're literally like cells in her planetary body. So you'll start connecting to her, and you'll start connecting to the collective as well. So if you've got particular pain or particular trauma that you're processing, you'll start actually connecting to the pain of the collective and the pain of Mother Earth that is transmuting that same thing. So it's deep. It's really, really deep. And so you need to bring your masculine consciousness online to hold space for that process to take place. And then also things like boundaries. Boundaries are masculine consciousness, okay? As you start to connect to your body and what feels good for you, then you start to be able to communicate that through the throat portal, which again is masculine consciousness, speaking truth, speaking the truth of your feelings. Like, no, that doesn't feel good. No, I don't want to do that. Like, yes, I would love to go there with you. That feels better. I would prefer this. No, I'm not ready for you to penetrate me yet. Slow down, things like that, okay? It will change your relationships and improve your relationships in so many ways. If you don't heal your masculine consciousness, you know, the masculines that come into your experience are basically a mirror reflection of your own masculine consciousness, okay? So if your own masculine consciousness is out of balance, is narcissistic, is suppressed into it's your shadows, then that's what you will experience externally as well. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to end it there. Please ask me any questions that you might have in the comment box below, and I'm going to answer some of the questions that people asked me in my Q&A on Instagram. I do answer them on Instagram as well in the stories, but I just feel like I can expand on them in much more detail, because obviously Insta stories, things are very, you don't have as much space. Okay, so yes, let's talk about it. Okay, so somebody asked, are you familiar with medical medium, and if so, what are your thoughts about it? So I've heard of it, but I've never tried it myself. My friend Laura Cherry Dance, who I tagged online, you could go follow her on Instagram. She's really good with all of that stuff. She's really expert. She, you know, healed herself of chronic illness, so she's really good, like diet and detoxification and like Chinese medicine and things like that. So definitely go ask her about that. She highly rates it. When I tagged her in this story, she said that she was like, it's a sign. I was thinking to start doing it again, and I'm going to start it tomorrow. So, you know, she rates that cleanse. I think it's something to do with like just eating raw. It might just be raw, and like no carbs, no roots. I don't know exactly. Sorry, you can just hear all my... Okay, somebody asked me, are you coming to party with me in September? Depends if I'm still here. Okay, okay, for the country that I'm traveling to next, I have my visa that I need. It's like a work visa. but I thought it was going to be really streamlined process. I was going to be able to get an appointment at the embassy or the consulate or whatever like the next day, and they're booked up for weeks. So I'm just waiting for either like my agency to give me one, or until I can book one myself on the website. The website's having issues, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what is up with these like government systems? Like, why are government websites always so glitchy and so shit? Like, you'd think that like corporations would never get away with having such shit websites as what governments get away with. Like, I honestly it's just another excuse. It's just another reason why I just think that we shouldn't have governments, and everything should be voluntary. Okay, somebody asked which country you leaving the UK. I just don't want to say yet. Like, it's not a secret. I just don't feel like saying it. I kind of want to surprise y'all with it. So yeah, when I'm there, I'll let you know. Or maybe when I'm on the plane or something. What do you think about India? I love India. It's not India, for people who are wondering. I love it. I miss it so much. I had an amazing time there. Obviously, I have a lot of clients from India, and I've worked consistently for Indian clients even since I've left. And you know, I actually was supposed to go this year, but you know, things came up, and things have just been a little bit of a shit show this year. So you know, I could have gone earlier this year, but I didn't for various reasons, which I'm not going to go into right now. But I'll probably go at the end of this year, or maybe early next year. It depends. But yeah, fucking love India. It's amazing. If you haven't been to India, you need to go. It's just so much to see. So many different, like, it's got something for everyone. It's just, maybe not everyone. Like, if you're somebody that likes everything like really clean and organized, and you don't like any kind of like chaotic or serendipity, or you're not a spiritual person, then maybe don't go. And we wouldn't really want you there, to be honest. You are like wine, gets better every day. Thank you. Okay, somebody has asked how to celebrate the moon without feeding black hole bitches. Okay, for those of you that don't know, so yeah, so according to Lisa Renee, according to my mentor Emily Joy Harris, and several other people have done, you know, lots of work on this. David Icke has done work on this, and most of this is based on like, you know, actual scientific evidence from like different astronomers and NASA and stuff like that, and you know, stuff that they've pieced together. The moon and Saturn are kind of connected in like a moon-Saturn matrix, and there's a bunch of like black holes around there. So the moon basically pulls energy from the Earth and feeds it into these black holes. So when you're doing moon rituals, you're literally feeding your energy into black holes, and there's, you know, all kinds of entities that, you know, reside up there. So you're basically summoning those demonics to do your bidding when you're doing moon manifestation rituals. So I don't do them anymore. Y'all can do whatever you want, but understand that it kind of, you know, Emily and Aleo, her partner, have done a lot of videos on the galactic history of the moon. And, you know, yes, some of it is kind of theory and what they've pieced together from different ancient texts, and also their own channeled information. So I'm not saying it's 100% the truth, but a lot of it makes sense. And I do think that, like, if you're doing moon rituals, from what I understand about how it works when you're actually summoning demons to help you manifest things, it causes problems in this reality, and not just for yourself but also for other people. So don't do that shit. I don't know what it means to celebrate the moon. Like, I don't celebrate Jupiter or Venus or Saturn, or, you know, I might sunbathe, I might be happy when it's sunny, but I don't really feel like I celebrate the sun. So I don't understand what people mean by celebrating the moon. I do think it's pretty. I take pictures of it, and I actually posted this little gif of me dancing under it when it was like a massive supermoon. It's beautiful. I will concede that it's beautiful heavenly body. I take pictures of it. I'll take pictures underneath it. I'll do photo shoots with it. I mean, my name on Instagram and Facebook is Moon as the surname. That I don't want to say it's before I knew about the moon, because I did actually already know a little bit about the moon when I chose that name, but I don't think I didn't really understand how deep it got when I chose the name. But I don't know, I'm just going to keep the name. I might change it in the future, I'm not sure. Okay, so what else? What other questions are there? Oh, sorry, it stopped recording. I hope I didn't lose anything. If I did, oh well. Somebody asked, you going to come to America anytime in the future? I said no, I have no desire to come to America. It's not on my travel plans right now. I'm gonna share. Okay, so a lot of people guessed that I was going to Bali. No, Bali's completely overrun with tourists right now, so yeah, it ain't the one. Somebody asked why I don't read my okay, sorry, some of these questions are a bit stupid and not bringing forth interesting information. Somebody asked why I don't read DMs from my fans. I do actually read every single DM that is sent me. That's why I ask you guys, if you want to book sessions with me, send me a DM on Instagram. I literally read every single one, but I reply to a lot of them. I reply to most DMs that where people are actually saying something or asking me something, but I don't reply to ones that are just like, hi babe, or gorgeous, or like, I mean, if I know the person and they say gorgeous, then I might like heart it, or I might say thank you, but you know, I don't respond to like, if there's nothing interesting in the message, then I'm not going to reply, because I'm busy. Like, I run 3 companies, so I have only so much time in the day. Okay, so somebody asked, when we're through the worst of this monumental transition, what do you envision for your life? And I said, we're already through the worst of it, and I'm already living it. And I want to expand on this, okay, because this is a former client of mine who asked me this, and then we kind of had a little bit of a conversation in the DMs as well. So his perspective, he thinks things are going to get worse, and that we're probably headed for another big psyop. I do think that there will be a psyop, another big psyop, but not like the one that we went through, okay? Emily has talked about this extensively in her videos, and I don't want to rehash it in too much detail, because that, you know, you guys can just watch her videos, and it's just, I just don't believe in like copying people and saying exactly the same thing as what they're saying. But yes, I do think that there is going to be a false light great awakening when Trump returns to office. I do think that there's a good chance that he might win this time, because, you know, the Democrats have just proven themselves to be absolutely dog shit, and the country, not just the country, but the entire world is kind of going to shit in record inflation, record fuel prices. I mean, they can try and blame it on the situation with Russia and Ukraine, but the inflation and, you know, the gas and electric prices were already creeping up before that happened. So, you know, I suspect that they may just be using it as an excuse, but, you know, maybe it has impacted it. But obviously with the situation in Russia and Ukraine, again, it's not necessarily like they're not giving you the full truth in the mainstream media. So, you know, you got to look at different sources to kind of piece together what's happening there. I don't want to speak about it too much here, because I don't know how much the censorship, I don't know what terms are being censored here on YouTube, and I don't want to lose my channel. But yeah, like, I do think that if the white hats come in, then we're gonna see, you know, he talked about, do you not think that we're gonna have, like, you know, this great reset with digital IDs and stuff like that? And I was just like, maybe we will, but I don't think that we're gonna be forced into it like we were with, you know, what we've been through recently, where there was so much pressure to do a certain thing that a lot of people were not on board with, and a lot of people knew could harm them significantly, and a lot of people have been harmed significantly, and we're seeing a lot of people who are sadly now passing away from the effects of the bioweapon. Okay, I know several people that, and you know, the news media is talking about sudden adult death syndrome, and you know, the stats are just not good. If you want to look up somebody who's extremely credible, who's breaking down all the data, there's a guy called Sunil Dand. He's an MD, he's a British doctor who is based in America, and he's on locals.net. okay, he does live streams on Locals. He used to be on YouTube, and then they terminated his channel because he was speaking too many uncomfortable truths. But he's a doctor, he's very evidence-based, he's not a conspiracy theorist. Okay, he's just looking at the data, and he's asking some serious, hard, tough questions. Okay, now, depending on who you are, obviously the transition is going to be more difficult for some people than it is for others. Okay, and I am considerate to the fact that, you know, he's in a country in which it's still not possible for him to travel. So I understand that for different people the situation's different, but personally I think you got to do whatever you can do to take your sovereignty back. You know, get up on natural law, use whatever resources are available to you to behave just like a sovereign and free individual. Okay, travel is a human right. Okay, we all have the sovereign right to travel. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. You know, we're not slaves, okay? Nobody has to give you permission to do what normal natural human beings have done since time immemorial, okay? So for those of us that have been doing our work and who've been awake for a long time, I personally think that we're through the worst of it. And as long as you're aligned with your mission and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is speaking truth and kind of educating people about, you know, how to discern between truth and falsehood, teaching people about natural law, teaching people about how to heal themselves, about how to be sovereign, I think, you know, you'll be fine. But for a lot of people who haven't healed, especially as the planet is like shifting into higher frequencies, things could get more difficult for people that are not fully awake yet, or who are going through awakenings right now, going through dark nights of the soul. For them it will be very difficult, especially people who are losing people from the bioweapon, you know, who weren't informed about the risks, or, you know, didn't take the risks seriously. Those people are probably going to go through extremely difficult transitions, and that could be all of us actually, because, you know, we all know people who like most people succumbed to the thing, didn't they? So yeah, maybe it could get worse, but personally I'm an eternal optimist. I'm not saying don't do the work. We obviously have to do the work. We have to do the work to bridge in new earth, but it's happening now. It's already started. So, you know, we're living it. I'm living it. Okay, somebody asked me, do I still do yoni steaming? I do. Not every month. I used to do it every month, and I got enormous benefits from it. I mean, mainly my cramps would always be less. Every time I do it, I would find that my cramps would be so much less when I would get my period. But also just down there, I just found I had so many less problems. I didn't have any weird discharges, any weird, like infections or anything like that. All of that was just ancient history, you know. It was very, very healthy yoni. So yeah, I don't do it as much as I used to. I'd say maybe I do it like every 3 months now. I should maybe do it like a bit more often than that, but you know, life gets in the way and you always have stuff to do, right? Somebody asked me what was I like as a teenager. Well, as a young teenager, I was kind of shy, pretty academic, a little bit lazy with studying, always did well at school for the most part. I really liked boys. I was quite obsessed with boys. I was a bit rebellious, used to sneak out the house to go and see boys and things like that. And then at uni, like when I was 18, 19, I went to uni, I just went crazy and I started raving, and that's when I started like experimenting with different mind-altering substances, because, you know, I started to meet people who were ravers and who would, you know, do magic mushrooms and pills and things like that. And at first I was like really shocked and triggered by it, but then I was like, oh wow, these people aren't homeless on the street, they're not degenerates, like they look like they have their lives together. Like, you know, I feel like the school system can be extremely, the way that they, you know, do like drugs education when I was growing up was, you know, very unhealthy. You know, it would just be like, don't do drugs, just say no. And they wouldn't give you actual proper drugs education about why people do drugs, about what is it about drugs that people feel drawn to. Like, is it maybe the fact that they feel really, really fucking good? So, and they're just like, yeah, just don't do it, you'll die, they're bad for you, your life will fall apart, you'll become addicted, which is not true. There are certain drugs that you will become addicted to. They should have educated us on which ones those were, like ice, crack cocaine. Cocaine also can be a little bit addictive, heroin, things like that. Maybe you want to probably say no to those. I haven't touched any of those. Obviously I've touched cocaine, but, you know, I've never touched crack, I've never touched heroin, I would never touch those things. I've never touched opium either. So they should educate kids properly about drugs, because when I first started taking like weed and magic mushrooms and pills at 18, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And that's when I really started questioning things, because I was just like, they didn't tell us like what we would be missing if we didn't take it, and why people actually take it. And that's when I really started not trusting, you know, the government. Well, I already didn't trust the government and the education system, but I definitely started to be very skeptical about it then. I've talked about, you know, in previous videos on, you know, the Kundalini awakening I had when I was on cannabis. I've talked about my experiences on psilocybin, about how I've done like shamanic journeying with psilocybin. I've talked about, you know, MDMA and the experiences I had on MDMA, because it produces like a heart chakra awakening. I think it's very important to talk about the benefits and the risks. Obviously, they're not without their risks. And I've spoken about the risks as well. So yeah, yes, I used to like dress up crazy at uni as well, and I used to wear like a top hat and like a dinner jacket with like tails and like a big flouncy blouse, and, you know, ripped jeans, and, you know, loads of crazy things around my wrist, loads of bangles. I was just like a proper little raver. Okay, so somebody asked, tips on releasing sexual traumas, any good resources? Yes. Firstly, start with breath work. Wim Hof will, I've said this loads of times before, guys. Wim Hof will actually release, you know, the first couple of layers of trauma. You do it the first few times. In my experience, I found that it was what happened. And then after I did it 3 or 4 times, then after that I would start to get dopamine activation. Oops. But other than that, once you've done that a few times, then highly consider joining my course, Reclaim Your Crown, because it clears trauma from the body. Any type of trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, sexual trauma. Particularly good for healing sexual trauma, because we do a lot of work on this. There's an entire class just dedicated to sacral healing, so womb healing, and every single class we sublimate sexual energy. So we move the Kundalini up and connect it to the divine, bring in Christ energy, connect it down into the ground through the temple of the body. So it actually starts to clear out any sexual inversions and sexual distortions, and you'll actually find that your boundaries become so much better. You'll become so much more discerning about who you share intimacy with. Like, the benefits of the Himalayan Kriya Yoga system, like, oh my god, are just, I could probably spend all day listing all the different benefits, and I don't even know, because I don't even know about all the benefits, because people message me from time to time telling me, you know, giving me testimonials, telling me about how it's helped them, and I will add those testimonials to the sales page probably as soon as I head to the country that I'm going to next, and my schedule kind of eases up a little bit. But, you know, I was not expecting some of the things. Like, one person actually told me that her body changed, like the composition of her body actually changed, because she was able to clear trauma from, I think it was the legs. So, you know, she always had really skinny legs, and she was always trying to like get more shapely and like do weights and build muscle on her legs, and she was never able to until she started doing, you know, the class where we cleared dark dense energies from the legs, and now she's found that, you know, her legs are much more curvaceous, which is what she wanted. So, you know, it's got crazy untold benefits, and, you know, I found in my experience I just get so much less triggered, which is, you know, obviously been life-changing for me, because I used to get triggered by a lot of things, which was caused havoc in all my relationships. Okay, somebody asked, when was the last time you went to a jungle drum and bass rave? At Secret Garden Party. So I've been really getting into like just enjoying life and partying a little bit, and like being one with music and with people, and just, you know, before I was talking to my hairdresser actually, who, guys, look how good my haircut is. If you're looking for an awake hairdresser in London, go to Edward Scissorhands in Highgate. Not only is he awake, he's actually an ET contact, and he's had all kinds of amazing multi-dimensional experiences, and, you know, like his, not just his third eye, but like his 11th chakra is fully open, which means that he can talk to like higher dimensional beings and bilocate and all kinds of crazy things. So we were talking the other day, and I was talking to him about how before the pandemic I was just getting to the point where I was like, oh, you know, like partying is so toxic, and you know, look at these idiots, and I just don't want to be part of that. You know, I just want to have like a spiritual life now and just live a simple life and just meditate and do yoga and eat clean food, and I'm just over all that hedonism. And then when the pandemic hit, at first I really enjoyed the quiet time, but after a while I was a bit like, how dare the government tell us that we can't get together and enjoy ourselves? So, you know, at the marches, and then, you know, going to Golden Frequencies, which is like a clandestine party that they would have in Hampstead Heath, which is, you know, it was like a starseed gathering, and they would have consciousness talks, and then they would have like a DJ and ecstatic dance. Amazing. I've just been really enjoying the little gatherings and festivals and drum circles and like house parties and things like that. Okay, so somebody asked what's my sleep routine. I've talked about this before. Like, my sleep is, you know, I have to be very disciplined with my sleep, and I have to try and really go to bed at an appropriate time, because I need a lot of sleep. Like last night I actually slept for 12 hours. It's quite normal for me to sleep for 9 or 10 hours. That's me on a regular night. So I have to be quite disciplined. But these days I'm so busy with work, and obviously when you sleep for 12 hours, doesn't really leave you a lot of extra time for other things. So I'll work until like 8 or 9 p.m. I'll maybe like have dinner. I'll have dinner at like around 7 p.m. I'll maybe do an hour work before bed. But I try not to get myself too overexcited. It will be just, the work that I'll do will be a bit more like relaxing, like photo editing or something like that, something that I enjoy. And then 9 p.m. I'll just quickly clean the kitchen, and then I'll take a melatonin, maybe some magnesium as well, and then I will watch some Netflix or just something on YouTube just to wind down and fall asleep while watching it. And I'll try not to watch anything that's too overstimulating or too dark, nothing conspiratorial, nothing like about the state of the world or about Satanists or anything like that, because then I get nightmares and then I'll need to sleep for even longer. Okay, so I think that's it. Loads of people were guessing where I'm going to next. That's not interesting right now. You guys don't need to hear that. That's it. That's all the questions. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I will love you and leave you. If you want to book a session with me, then DM me on Instagram. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be in the UK, but you know, when I get going, when I start traveling, things are going to be chaotic for a couple of weeks. But I think I don't know. I could be here for another week. I could be here for another month. It all depends on when I can get an appointment at the consulate to get my paperwork stamped, and then I'm going to be on a plane the next day because I am sick of being here. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I will love you and leave you. Peace out. One love.